AM5 time? AM5 time. Finally it's AM5 time. Some of you are saying, you have patience. B850i Lightning Wi-Fi. This is the ITX version of another motherboard that we took a look at previously. 10 plus 1 power phases, which AMD CPUs don't use a lot of power. You don't need insane power phases. It is nice to have stable power though. Wi-Fi 6E, pretty decent connectivity for an ITX motherboard, plus 2.5 gig LAN. Okay, I'll take it. Let's take a closer look. I'm always slightly alarmed that the boxes are just like, it's two DDR5 DIMMs. Good luck. DDR5 took a little while to stabilize in terms of memory speed. As this is an AM5 platform, you're looking to run DDR5 6000 anyway. That's what I tested on this board. You probably don't want to push past DDR5 6000. It's a little challenging. Let's take a look at what you get in the box. Well, the motherboard, of course, with a pretty smart layout as well, if I do say so myself. You got an M.2 on the rear of the board, as well as your PCIe Gen 5, your blazing M.2 there, AM5 socket, 8-pin PCIe power, dual addressable RGB headers, get a temperature sensor input at the top edge of the board, which is nice because you can tuck that cable out of the way. I like that a lot better than around the bottom edge of the motherboard, because on a board like this with a big graphics card, it's really crowded down there. You got your dual 4-pin fan headers, 24-pin ATX power, 2 SATA connections, your front panel 5 gigabit, your front panel Type-C, a USB 2 header for accessories or more USB ports, and then your front panel header. This clear CMOS jumper down here at the front edge of the board is just going to be used for clear CMOS. That's never going to be in the way of your graphics card. There's an extra third 4-pin fan header here that will clear your graphics card, even one that's got a back plate just barely. And then your front panel audio connection here at the rear of the board. Now for the rear I/O, it's pretty interesting. The Lightning Gaming and the Super Speed, those are all 10 gig ports. Plus then we've got the USB-C plus display port. So this is technically USB 4. We'll get to more about that in a minute. But this is 10 gigabit USB plus DisplayPort out from the integrated GPU. And also HDMI out from the integrated GPU. You can use USB to DisplayPort, so you could run DisplayPort and HDMI, but then you lose your USB-C connectivity. But having, 4 10 gig ports back here is pretty awesome. The other ports, though, are USB 2. So these 4 ports here, they're all USB 2.0. You've got 2 more USB 2.0 on that breakout header on the front, but it might have been nice to see more. Other accessories in the box, you get basic rubber duck Wi-Fi antennas, an analog temperature sensor, M.2 mounting hardware, your M.2 mounting screws, 2 6 gigabit per second SATA ports, and some ASRock cable management Velcro strips. You've also got some regulatory notice, your installation guide. Not much here, really. I do like that this motherboard has the built-in rear I/O shield. Nothing here is quick release or easy release or anything like that. You'll have to have a Phillips screwdriver and 2 screws that you have to take out to get to your blazing M.2 slot. The M.2 that you run on the back of the motherboard, you've got limited room back here, so you'd want to run something that has a built-in heatsink or an M.2 that's not going to run super hot, and that is PCIe Gen 4 connections there. One really nice thing about this motherboard is that it does have a thermal connection on the back here, so if you have a little bit of airflow around your case, I'm thinking like the fractal cases, the Terra, the open concept design cases where you've got some pretty good airflow behind the motherboard. That's great for VRM cooling on this, especially if you're going to run a 9950X in this platform. In terms of CPUs that make sense for this platform, you can run a 9950X in this. Running it at 203 watts was no problem in our testing. It should work with the 9950X 3D, but don't have one of those to test with. 12 core, 8 core, 6 core, not going to be a problem for this. It's a good pairing for a 9800X 3D, except for, it's ITX. There's limited connectivity. So if you're building a small form factor build, this will work great with that 9800X 3D. Let's take a closer look at what this looks like in a build. Networking adapter choices are interesting too. This is actually the killer E3100G 2.5 gig NIC, and it's the RZ616 Wi-Fi 6E. So that's one of the weaker Wi-Fi 6E solutions. It's not bad, but there are better. You can upgrade. It is modular. You got to really dig in there to do it, but you could. And the killer E3100G NIC 2.5 gig works fine on Linux as well as Windows. It's interesting that it's not the Realtek solution though. The audio solution is the ALC897, so that's one of the less expensive audio solutions. So it's a little give and take. Well, good news on the Gen 5 front. ASRock has explicitly added a Gen 5 option in the latest version of the BIOS. So depending on when you buy the board or if you update your BIOS, there is actually a Gen 5 option. It was auto and then Gen 4, 3, 2. But now Gen 5 actually is an explicit option in the BIOS. I think that's encouraging given that my burn-in testing also worked at Gen 5 with the 5080, so I think we're in the clear for PCIe Gen 5 support on this board. I'll take it. And as we go through the BIOS tour, all the options are here that you would expect. XMP profile, some tools to help you get the most out of your memory. If you are running DDR5 8000, for example, and you just want to run at 6000 with tighter timings, there's some tools here to help you do that and achieve stability and save a profile to the BIOS so that you can restore after a BIOS update. Cool features like that, which is awesome. It also supports bifurcation mode. You can run X8, X4, X4, or X4, 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 X4 in that X16 slot. So that's nice if you're going to use some sort of off-label build with this, or even X8, X8 if you've got a riser cable or a breakout cable. It's nice to see that and all the OC tweaker options you'd expect in the ASRock BIOS. So there you go. It seems like the platform wants to bring up USB 4, but for an external Thunderbolt enclosure with a graphics card and some other PCIe devices, it was not really wanting to initialize that in a Thunderbolt USB 4 style mode. Not sure why. It should support that. It should work. Maybe that will be resolved with a driver update, but it's also not one of the listed features. Let's spend a quick look at the B850 Lightning Phantom Gaming Wi-Fi from ASRock. I've got a bunch more ASRock AM5 motherboards lined up for a closer look, and so if you want to spend some money on something a little higher end, well, you certainly could, and spend more to get more. Definitely a thing. I'm one of those level 1. If you want to see a build with this, or heck, we might do a forum giveaway, I don't know. I'm hanging out in the forums and I'm signing out, and I'll see you there.